All right, hello everybody. So today we're going to take a trip through a, a league with this sort of Bant combos deck. And I've actually already played the league out, but just for a Decktech, it's basically sort of a freed from the real combo deck. Uh, so what freed from the real does, in case you don't know, is basically you enchant something and then you pay a blue to untap the creature. You can also tap a creature, but that usually doesn't get used unless I'm really desperate for a removal spell. Um, but basically, this is sort of like a combo deck. We're playing 19 lands, which might seem like not enough for a deck that plays 4 copies of Muldrifter plus Archaeomancer. But actually, we're playing 27 mana sources if you include Utopia Sprawl and Arbor Elf. So what the combo is you have an Arbor Elf on the battlefield, and you have a Utopia Sprawl on one of your lands, and you enchant your Arbor Elf with Freed from the Real. And usually Utopia Sprawl is naming blue. So what you can do with this is you can get infinite green mana, and from there you can play either a Heliod's Pilgrim with with like an excess white mana that you might have, and then you can search up Abundant Growth and then enchant the land. So if you have a land with both Utopia Sprawl and Abundant Growth on it, you can make infinite mana of all colors with Arbor Elf and Freed. And then you cast Rolling Thunder and 20 your opponent. So that's the combo, but I think one of the strengths of this deck is it does not need to combo to win the game. You can just win the game by beating down with Muldrifters or just drawing way more cards than your opponent. But um, the second primary mode of winning the game is getting an Archaeomancer onto the battlefield and then ephemerating it, which isn't technically an infinite, but you can get basically an extra card every turn. So you could get an extra syncopate every turn and lock your opponent out of the game that way. So the rest of the deck is sort of built to get one of those two combos. And for the most part, I win with Freed from the Real, with Archaeomancer sort of being a secondary combo. Once you have infinite mana, you don't usually have the Rolling Thunder in hand, but you can still combo off with cards that look multiple cards deep in your library. So cards like Brainstorm, you could look at 3 cards and say you find Muldrifter in 2 lands, but you have a Witching Well in your hand. You can Witching Well, scry 2 of the lands to the bottom, and then play your Muldrifter and draw 2 more cards, and then crack Witching Well, draw 2 more cards, and eventually you find Rolling Thunder. You can also snap back either your Archaeomancer or your Muldrifter. And this card's good because usually it generates mana. You have Weather the Storm, which helps you gain enough life so you don't die. And then you can combo Electricity. This deck, like many combo decks, has a bit of an issue with Spellstutter Sprite. So Electricity is sort of a good thing to have main deck sort of as a surprise. And you have Wind Zendikon, which is sort of like a backup Arbor Elf that you can also fetch up with Heliod's Pilgrim. And if you have a Heliod's Pilgrim on the battlefield, sometimes you can just ephemerate it at the end of the opponent's turn. Like, say they tap out, you ephemerate it, get Wind Zendikon, and then ephemerate comes back off a rebound, and then you get freed from the reel and make infinite mana that way. Deep Analysis is another good card against Delver. I think it just draws a bunch of cards and is difficult to counter. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole deck. We also have Immolation, which is a removal spell that you can search up. There's another card that recently got released. We don't actually play red mana, so we have to rely on our fixing to cast these spells, but usually it's not a problem. But there was another card that got released that gives -3/-3. That's also an aura. You can fetch it up with Heliod's Pilgrim. I'm not sure if that card's better. I might test it out. And also, these syncopates maybe should be Condescend, but whatever. It doesn't actually matter too much. And I just love beating my opponent with cards they may not have seen in the format. So for the sideboard, we have another Syncopate and Mystical Teachings, which can find Ephemerate or Dispel or something. Lone Missionary is pretty obvious. You bring it in against aggressive decks. These three cards are good against Delver, Fairies. Red Blast also pretty good against Tron. And then Blue Blast, just because I really hate losing to Burn. I run into Burn quite often, so gotta be packing Blue Blast. Yeah, I guess I have kind of a lot of Burn hate, but one other thing that's good about Blue Blast is a lot of times people will try and kill your Arbor Elf with like a lightning bolt, and then you could just Blue Blast it. I don't know, maybe I should sub some of these cards out, but whatever. Sideboarding is never going to be a perfect science, and I actually built this deck right after Astrolabe got banned. So yeah, it was sort of an attempt to sort of relive Jeskai, the deck. So an old version of this deck, not this one, but this one played Core Skyfisher, and I think that card is okay. It's good against aggro, and it can help on your combo turn by picking up a Mole Drifter. And sometimes if you enchant the wrong land with Abundant Growth, you could pick it up and then enchant the right land and then infinite that way. But I don't know, I just didn't feel like it was necessary, and I'd rather have more Arbor Elves. You see that I only played 2, and I think having 4 is really good. So this deck started as sort of an experiment to see how many infinite combos I could put in one deck. And I built this deck. It has Gond combo. It has walls. You can infinite with like 2 walls and a freeze from the reel. And it also has a single familiar, which doesn't really let you do most of the traditional familiar combos. And it also has tribe. But when I played this deck, I felt like most of the time I was going for the Freed combo. I think it's really strong with Ephemerate and Heliod's Pilgrim, being able to just tutor it up. It's a lot like playing Splinter Twin in Modern, where you just win on your opponent's end step, basically. But yeah, that's the deck. So I'm gonna take it into a league. I guess I already did. But yeah.